What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.
Hey folks, how are you today? I'm your host BKP and you're watching BKP Politics on voiceofruralamerica.com. I know I've been MIA, missing in action. I've been MIA for a couple days. I know that. I was down in Macon. Let me start out by saying thank you very much, Macon Republican Party. I just really enjoyed it down there. Great group of patriots. Last Thursday night, we had a great time. I enjoyed the opportunity to share with them. We talked about last Thursday night the state of and where we stand right now with the Georgia Republican Party. A little bit of a wake-up call because 2026, well, we're in 2026, but November is right around the corner. May 19th is even closer. That's our Republican primary here in Georgia. And then on top of that, we have April 7th, right? April 7th is the runoff for the 14th district. Got it. All right, so let's get started right into things. I appreciate it. We are on, we appreciate all the people that are paying subscribers to Substack to help support what we do. We do appreciate that very much. We're on Substack Vora, V-O-R-A, V-O-R-A, at BKP Politics. And then we're on X, Rumble, YouTube, and Facebook, voiceofruralamerica.com. So, as we venture into today's program, we know that we have, where are we at on the end of the Georgia legislative session? End of the Georgia legislative session. Today is the 31st, March 31st. Tomorrow, we have the 39th day, the Georgia legislative session. Thank God only lasts 40 days a year of damage. Now, what's interesting, the damage that will be done this year, how it will be unwound next year. Yes. Unless it's a constitutional amendment and you, the voters, vote to accept or change the Georgia state constitution, it's always something that can be unwound. All right? Meaning, if Democrats take control next year of anything, whether it's the governor's mansion or more control over the state house or the state senate, they could start unwinding things. That being said, we're in day 39. They are in session today. Tomorrow they go behind closed doors, and then that's April 1st. April Fool's Day for us here in Georgia, right, to put our legislators behind closed doors. And then that's Wednesday, and then Thursday will be the last day of the Georgia legislative session. Now, with that being said, as we get deeper in today's broadcast, I want to be very clear on something. All right? Very clear. I am not endorsing candidates. You got it? I'm not. Because I get phone calls, and when I do stories about certain candidates, it becomes, people will say, oh, so I notice you're supporting X. No, no, no. It's not true. Now, I am getting phone calls all the time about who are you supporting for governor? And every one of you know out there in Georgia supporting someone for governor right now, I have not made a personal decision on who I'm voting for. I've not. I'm watching things play out. All right? I'm watching things play out. Now, the other thing in Georgia, we're always asked. We always look, every time there's a race, we always ask the question, or the question is asked of me, who is Brian Kemp's candidate? In the state of Georgia, the governor always, when I say always, even when he says, I'm going to stay out of this one, be still, be still. Even when Governor Brian Kemp says, I'm going to be staying out of this one, he has a candidate. And we always do that in Georgia. We look for, wait a minute, how do we try to piece the puzzle together on who would support, who Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, may support in what race. Now, we know very clearly in the Georgia State Senate, that's Derek Dooley, and I'll explain a little more on that later in our broadcast. But we start analyzing what I call, and excuse me for this, the political consulting prostitutes. Sorry. It's like the political consultant prostitutes are cross-dressers standing on a corner somewhere in Georgia waiting for a politician to pick them up. Politicians drive by, they roll down the window. How much? How much? It is such a racket, and it's such... They are paid political consulting teams, and you never know where they're going to end up. You start looking, whoa, wait a minute. You're on this campaign? Who's working on this campaign? And what we do here in Georgia is we start looking at, so if this person is working on this campaign and they used to work on Mike Pence's campaign, then that means X. We really do. Now, here's what I know. Is these two guys had an agreement. What will end up with the agreement all the way through, I'm not sure. But I can tell you this. For my one dearest friend that always says, don't pick on my favorite governor. And that's what I love about this program, is we have a conversation. And we don't attack each other. But I know this. Brian Kemp has total disregard for anything Donald Trump cares about. That's my opinion, okay? Well, wait a minute. I think I could prove it. He has total disregard. All right? Now, he has total disregard that President Trump asked, they had a deal to find an agreeable candidate to run for Senate to try to help him in D.C. and give Georgia a Republican U.S. Senator, so to get rid of John Ossoff and put one more Republican check mark in Washington, D.C. Brian Kemp totally disregarded that, had no regard whatsoever. They did not agree on Derek Dooley whatsoever. But Brian Kemp said, hey, I'm going to go on my own. And I know why. Now, the other thing I'm going to put out, this is where it's going to get a little spicy, right? I like that because I use, is it grok or gronk or grack or whatever it is, right? Gronk. I use that, and every time I talk about a political campaign when I'm doing research, it'll come back and say, is this campaign not getting a little spicy by now, right? So the other one is the governor's race. Now, Burt Jones, who I have not endorsed, no, I have not, who I do not support, I'm not out there campaigning for, and none of my stories concerning Rick Jackson, come along lately Jackson, fake Jackson, yes, he's a fake, I'm going to say that right now. The campaign is a fake. It's all a mirage out there. But I'm gonna share that with you. But he also has total disregard for Donald Trump's choice in picking Burt Jones, because Burt Jones is, and let me be clear, he is the endorsed candidate. Donald Trump's endorsed candidate for governor is Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. These are all facts. All right. I don't know if by November the label endorsed by Trump, what that's going to mean. And I'm telling you, things are getting a little dicey, spicy, whatever you want to call it out there. Things, they be a-changing. The winds of change. Now, so I would like for Rick Jackson, and I am now coining him Fake Jackson. I've been studying the campaign. Now, I gave him a 30-day brand new to the campaign honeymoon, to the point to where people were accusing me of supporting Rick Jackson. But I gave him 30 days. Let me see what he does with his campaign. Let me see what he does when he starts getting out on the road. Let me see how he handles issues, all right? And then we started a deep dive into Rick Jackson, and we will again today. Now, I, for one, want to be clear. I have dear friends. I was down in Macon the other night, and I was talking to some dear friends that are supporting Rick Jackson. And all I did was say, keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open. I'm going to look you right in the eye. Ready? Prepare yourself. Ready? And I'm going to say to you, Rick Jackson is no friend, no supporter of Donald Trump's. He is not. Okay? So you're making a decision. Now, I am going to jump right out in the beginning of this broadcast and say, I have not crossed every T and dotted every I. This is politics. But my gut, and I have one, if you've seen me in full figure, if you've seen me in my full figure, I have one, okay? And my gut says right now, I'm looking at you, that Rick Jackson is Brian Kemp's candidate. That's my gut. I'm still working on a couple dots on an I or two, a couple T's to cross, but I feel strong that Rick Jackson is Brian Kemp's candidate. I've been looking for Brian. I don't think Chris Carr is Brian Kemp's candidate. I don't think Clark Dean is Brian Kemp's, or Ken Yasgur, obviously. I don't think Brad Raffensperger, and I know beyond the shadow of a doubt, don't even know what that doubt and where the shadow goes, but I start seeing the Martha Zollers in the tank, okay? I'm looking, here's my weight. How do you know that, BKP? Tell us, how do you get to this? I started looking at the tank, okay? The swamp tank, not the shark tank, the swamp tank. And I start seeing the Martha Zollers in the swamp tank. I mean, I really do. And I'm not being ugly, all right? So I start analyzing what's happening. I start hearing the campaign trail discussion of how Rick Jackson's campaign is hiring anyone and everyone well, not anyone, maybe, but they're hiring on the campaign trail. It's almost like, there's a little like gap there. There may be one or two, but it's almost every stop they make, they hire someone. I'm going to get into that, all right? And I, for one, am actually very tired of this man sending out things like this that say lower taxes, eliminate illegal immigration, ban DEI, reverse discrimination, end religion of woke, and put Georgia first. I'm up to here with that. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm not just saying it. Okay? Here's the dealio, man. Okay? Nothing here says health care. Nothing. All right? Nothing here. I mean, Rick Jackson is Donald Trump's biggest supporter in Georgia, donating $100 million to his political efforts. This is totally fraudulent. It's fraudulent. That is fraud. Okay? Rick Jackson did absolutely nothing. Zero. I've searched every AI model, Gemini, Gronk, Grok, whatever, whatever model I can. And I can't find anywhere where Rick Jackson supported Donald Trump until after he was inaugurated in office and he had planned to run. He's a fake. He is a nice man, okay? And he did grow up in a tough situation. Well, hell. I mean, I personally did not. I did not grow up in a tough situation. I did not have to drive my mom home drunk at 9 years old. I hated for the guy. I did not grow up in 5 different, foster homes. I didn't. I hated for the guy. But he's not the only one. Dave Thomas, who, started Wendy's. Didn't he grow up through foster care? I don't know, right? I get it. He has an amazing story as a youth. And he has an amazing story about meeting his Lord and Savior. And he has an amazing story about how, he decided that was all going to change in his life. And his work ethic. It's great. But it doesn't change the fact at 71 years old, he's running a campaign that's fraudulent and fake. Right? I mean, 9 years old was a long time ago. His youth was a long time ago. I mean, I know stories. I have friends that grew up in a tough situation. I mean, look at Mike the Pillow guy out there, right? He got off of drugs, got turned around. Mike Lindell. That's great. Does not change the fact that his campaign is a fraud and he is a fake. The campaign. It doesn't. Now, I'm going to get into this because I'm tired of this. Lower taxes. Because nowhere here, this man's a billionaire, nowhere here does he address what he could actually focus on. Right? Traveling nurses. We'll get into that. How much staffing increased enormously. You can't lower taxes because the highest rate, and I'm going to show you, in your cities and counties, every year when they do their budget, is health care. Now, I'm not looking at you and blaming this on Jackson healthcare, no. but this is one of the largest healthcare staffing agencies in the United States. And I think he's the largest healthcare staffing agency in the state of Georgia. They are very much involved in driving the ball when it comes to that. And staffing and the cost of labor is not the total driver in healthcare. But if you ever go sit in one of your county meetings, I'm going to show you everything in black and white. City meeting. So when he says, I'm going to lower taxes, he can't do that. We can't do that till we address some things. Eliminate illegal immigration. He knows he can't do that. But this is a team of swamp political consultant prostitutes that they're assembling. All these campaigns do it, so he's not exempt from, it's not like he's the only one. But I'm tired of it. And I'm absolutely, I am sick of this right here, okay? Rick Jackson should not be sending out anything with Donald Trump's picture on it. Rick Jackson and Donald Trump, two businessmen, two outsiders, two leaders who take action for better Georgia, for a better Georgia. It's just not true. I mean, this man, he should not mislead voters, because this right here, this is the number. This is what Jackson should send out. I'm serious. This is what Rick Jackson should send out. He should send out a picture of himself and Nikki Haley. That's what he should do. And by the way, that is AI generated. AI generated. Because I know attorneys are always standing by, right? But that is AI generated. But that is the picture he should send out. He should send that one out. So when you have this right here, and you have, this is Patricia Murphy with the AJC. This is Patricia Murphy at the AJC, and she says, she was at the Golden Corral, right? The Golden Corral meeting. And he's not the Trump candidate. This was a quote she got from someone in the room. He's not the Trump candidate, but the pro-Trump Georgia voters who saw Rick Jackson this week didn't care. He's the combination of Trump and Vance. I love them both. He is not. He is not. Someone needs to go to one of his rallies and ask him if he voted for Donald Trump. Absolutely. He's not a combination of Trump and Vance. Well, I don't want to go there right now. So, here's what I know. And let's go over his campaign for a little bit. Out on the campaign trail, he's struggling to answer questions. And I'm going to show you because I've analyzed this, all right? Out on the campaign trail, he's struggling to answer questions. Now, I have talked to someone in the room at almost every stop. Almost every stop. I've talked to someone in the room. All right? And in his stops, he does an amazing job. This is what I hear. He does an amazing job telling his story. Okay? And he really wants to do something in a significant way in Georgia when it comes to foster care. And I'm happy for that. I really am. But when he goes to answer questions, he draws a blank. And when he can't answer a question, whether it's about flooding in coastal areas, whether it's about timber, whatever it may be, we understand he's not been in or under the Gold Dome. But when he goes to answer those questions, he will say, I'm not quoting him, I don't know anything about the subject, but I guarantee I will put good people around me that will know that. Okay? That's not a bad answer. But if I'm looking at your campaign and looking at those good people, then I would question, because I think you'll take the same swamp in under the Gold Dome that may be under there right this minute. Right? So, I already know this. Now, here's what I also, when he goes to an event, all right, here's Rick Jackson, we're going to get insane property tax under control. No, he's not. He was just written these bullet points, okay? So he tells an amazing story, and it's his life, okay? I want to be candid. I want to be clear on that, and I respect that. I respect hard work. He tells an amazing story about his life. Then he cannot answer questions. And then he has bullet points that somebody wrote for him that they've done polling, and what emotionally moves you. They're controlling the campaign stops. They are. They're controlling the campaign stops. He's guarded, all right? We're going to get insane property taxes under control, strengthen our supply chains, bring new businesses to Georgia, and shine sunlight on a system that's left people feeling behind. What about shining some sunlight on the system that you heavily have profited off of? What about that? We'll get to that in a minute. Now, what I want to show you here is, I'm not going to highlight other people in this broadcast at the time, but I can tell you what he's doing is now on the campaign trail, he's guarding himself in circles of questions. So he has a team staying close to him now. Very close on the questioning side. All right? Now, I also know this. He will not attend joint events. That may change after today's broadcast gets put out. They may change that. They may say I'm wrong. In fact, they will say and attack me, because they do. But I don't know everybody. I just know everybody. He will not, his team will not do joint events. Okay? He will not do joint events. They won't. They are letting, no names. They are letting GOP, right, everywhere you see, come meet Rick Jackson. That's it. Come meet Rick Jackson. They are letting people know out in front that no one else could be there. It's their event. That's what they're doing. They're letting people know right out front, no one else can be on the marquee. Right? It can't be the Rat Pack on the marquee. Can't be. Only Rick Jackson event. That's number one. Won't do joint events. Number two, they're attempting to hire at these stops people that may already hold positions with their local GOP. Just say it. But this I know for, well, can I say I know this for a fact? When a person, because I talk to a lot, if you're around the state, give me a call. Can I say this for a fact? Because a person that was hired to do this told me this is what they're doing. They're hiring, I have it here somewhere. Where do I have it? They have a digital response team. So they have people all over the state that is a digital response team. And I'm not telling you this is the only, I'm not telling you this is the only campaign doing this. This is actually not uncommon. But the Rick Jackson campaign, they are just throwing money. Money's coming out the tailpipe of this bus because it is a fraudulent, fake facade of a campaign. It really is. I mean, the bus is covered. That's how the campaign is. And when they get done, they can peel the cover off the bus and peel the cover off of everything and maybe expose what they've really done throughout the state. Mislead voters. Now, what a digital response team is they have people going through X, Instagram, social media sites, everyone, and scouring for negative comments or going and commenting and bolstering social media posts. Now, I can't say that the Jackson team is advocating this or supporting it, but they may be doing this. They may be. Because what happens is you hire a digital response individual, they may have 10 different IDs online. They may. Just say. Hey. So they will not share an event with anyone else at this time. They've not signed on to an event with anyone else. They'll let you know it's only theirs. They are fraudulently putting out Trump in front. So I do not know. You know Bubba? Well, I do not know Bubba for the past 87 years. This is a PSC. Member of the PSC, Bubba McDonald. And he was up in Barrow County, and Bubba is 87 years old. Now, let's not get all bent out of shape, but he's 87 years old. And Winder PSC Commissioner Bubba McDonald endorsed Rick Jackson. All right? So let me pull that down and let's go here.
Early January of 2016, I was the first statewide elected official to endorse Donald Trump for president. And I'm still there today for Donald Trump. I'm also today being the first statewide elected official to endorse Rick Jackson for governor of Georgia.
Oh, thank you.
I'll be there with him. I will support whoever our nominee is, but my nominee is Rick Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Now, he endorsed Rick Jackson, right? Bubba McDaniel endorsed Rick Jackson. So I can look at you right now and tell you, I don't know if the Jackson campaign compensated him in any way whatsoever. I don't know. All right? I don't know if Bubba got paid. All right? He may have shot the jukebox. If you didn't understand that, I can't help you. All right? But I don't know if Bubba got paid to endorse Rick Jackson, meaning maybe later somewhere a campaign donation goes into his campaign account. I don't know, right? But he did. Now, Bubba, 87 years old, endorsed him. Then he goes and he gets Newt. Now, Newt Gingrich is 82 years old, and he gets Newt Gingrich, right? And I have known Newt Gingrich for a long time, and it's a real honor to have his support. No one will fight harder. So let's hear from Newt Gingrich, all right? Let me get my act together here, and let's hear from Newt Gingrich on his support.
Few fought harder for President Trump than me, but nobody will fight harder for you than Rick Jackson. I've known Rick for over 20 years. He came from nothing, built a real business, and saved thousands of lives through his conservative and Christian organizations. Rick will freeze insane property taxes, cut income taxes, and he'll fight for you, not the insiders. Join me in supporting my friend, Rick Jackson.
All right, so you went and got Newt. All right, went and got Newt. Now, let me say this. I don't know about Bubba McDonald, but Newt Gingrich has made comments. He has in the past that he doesn't do things without being paid. Now, we don't know if the Jackson campaign paid Newt Gingrich. We do not have that here. But we know Newt has made those comments in the past that he doesn't do things without being paid. But we don't have that. But here's what I do know, okay? I do know he had to go get Bubba McDonald, and he had to go get Newt Gingrich because he cannot say that for himself. He had to go, Rick Jackson had to go get Bubba McDonald to say, I endorse Trump. I'm going to give him, come here, Rick, let me rub my Trump on you. Let me rub it on you. I know you don't have any Trump, okay? And I know you supported Nikki Haley. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, you're going to say to me, well, PKP, we all know, we've all seen the Nikki Haley stuff. No, No. You got to think about this. While Trump was trying to take back the disaster that the auto pen Joe Biden put us in. Now, every day as it goes by, you may not be happy with many things Donald J. Trump is doing, and I get it. Am I in discomfort with some of his decisions? Hell yeah, I am. Hell yeah. But a day never goes by that I don't live with the fact, know the fact, and would love to see something happen concerning the fact that 2020 was stolen from the American people. Okay? Yes. And I know the mess and the disaster that was laid on the desk in the Oval Office when Donald J. Trump got there and started. A total mess. And one of those messes, Mr. Jackson took advantage of and profited from very well. Yes, he did. So the reason I bring this up is because A, Mr. Jackson, I was told Saturday was asked about 2020 again and failed miserably. Mr. Jackson does not talk about the election. He does not talk about 2020. He does not talk about, getting an putting an election system in place that is accurate, that only counts votes from citizens, that only counts true legal votes accurately. Doesn't talk about it. Instead, he was taking his time, instead of trying to get Donald Trump in and saying, Donald, we got to fix. He was dragging this lady, begging to get her in. He has no Trump. He doesn't have any odor. He don't stink. Go up to him. Nope. I can't sniff any Trump on you. None. But he got Bubba. See, he can't do it. So he said, Bubba, do me a favor. Rub a little Trump on me. Rub a little Trump on me. I don't know why that happens, folks. I don't know why it happens. It just does. Then he went over to Newt. Trump, come on. Give me a little, bro. I need some of that Trump. Because I have none. Period. Just saying. Bottom line. These are the facts. Now, so we know he has to go out and get Trump cred. He has none. He has to he has to send out pictures of Trump. Now, last week, Burt Jones challenged him to a debate. All right? And right out of the box, Swamp It. Yeah. Martha Zoller, Swamp It, right? Yes, up there, over there in Gainesville. Oh, Swamp It over in Gainesville. Oh, you got to invite every candidate. You have to invite every candidate. All right? Got to invite every candidate. And, very first one come out of the box. No, if you're going to debate, you have to have every candidate. No, you don't. Because I'm going to tell you why. So Burt Jones come out and he said, I think Rick Jackson and I need to just have a good old-fashioned televised debate. Georgia voters deserve to hear directly from the candidates, not just flashy, overpaid TV ads. Ball's in your court, Rick. So, Rick Jackson hasn't made a decision to debate. He will not share a venue with anyone. He will not attend. We have all these big multi-candidate events all around the state. I don't know of one multi-candidate event he's attended. If so, please let me know. But he calls him out for a debate, right? And this is actually, when I say goes against, I've moderated about 40 debates, and I was the only one to moderate a debate between Brad Raffensperger, David Belle Isle, T.J. Hudson, and Jody Heiss for Secretary of State in 2022, a 2-hour debate. I'll moderate a debate with these two. You can ask anyone about that debate. In fact, ask Brad Raffensperger himself. It was a well-balanced debate for voters to get information, and it was a real debate. I will only moderate real debates, not forums masked as a debate. No, a debate. Now, that being said, I have always had a rule that every candidate that's qualified has to be invited. But I thought about this when this came up, and immediately when Martha Zoller came out and said, no, every candidate has to be invited. And I know why I feel she wants every candidate invited is to, give shade for Rick Jackson, right? That being said, when asked, all right, so he challenged him to a debate. When asked whether he would participate in the debate, Jackson said he's still considering invites. If debates actually matter to people, and I've been told they don't actually change things, I'd be willing to debate anybody about anything that was necessary, right? So here's why I think Rick Jackson, I've heard Rick Jackson talk about learning to fight, growing up in the projects. Yeah, I've heard him talk about it. And again, I respect it. He had to learn to throw a left and a right growing up. Grew up hard, foster care, right? Had to learn to fight as an early age. Well, Rick Jackson, of anybody, he came out and he went bare knuckles on Bert. He did. Bare knuckles. TV ads, websites, claiming he had taken bribes. I mean, you claim the man took bribes, you put websites up, all right? And you've gone on TV and attacked him. Everything and anything you could possibly do. So, hey, look, Rick Jackson went bare knuckles on the guy. Get in the ring. I mean, that's where you come from, Rick. Come on. I mean, I'm just saying. You came out and you went like this. You did. And Bert said, hey, you know what? If we're going to do this, let's do it. Thriller and Ella J. Right here, Ella J. Thriller. One afternoon. 10 rounds. 2 hours. Just saying. Hey, so he's already going to bail on debates, right? Just like that little weasel Jim Kingston down there in the 1st District. These are cowards. I'm sorry. I can't call it any other thing. Cowards. And you know why they don't want you to do? You know why they don't want to do that? I'm going to tell you why. It's because when you see a candidate here, and then you lose the visual and you see another candidate over here, your brain takes pictures. But when you see candidates side by side, and Jackson says, well, I don't know if it's necessary. I hear they don't change things. Yes, they do. Ask Joe Biden. Ask Joe Biden. And Trump, what did Trump say? I don't know. I don't know what he just said. I don't think he knows what he just said, right? Ask Joe Biden if a debate changes things. Ask Richard Nixon, dead and gone, if maybe he should have shaved that afternoon. Whatever. But yes, they do change things. That's why these cowardly candidates that have a cowardly candidate that has everything written for them and only knows their bullet points and only knows their index cards, they will stay away. They can't think on their feet fast enough. So, yes, billionaire, smart businessman. All right? Now, so that being said, let's move on along here. Data centers. Rick Jackson has said on the campaign he's very pro data center, and he talks about how it could alleviate and eliminate property tax. Right? Pro data center, alleviate property tax. Now, let's get into this. That's who he should be campaigning with. If Rick Jackson had his way, Donald Trump would not have been president in 2024. Period. Rick Jackson has not cleared up to me why he's running at this time. Now, let me just show you something. I think what he did with Nikki Haley, all right, I think Brian Kemp supported Nikki Haley. I think Marty Kemp supported Nikki Haley. I do. I think Brian Kemp knew a year ago. I think he knew a year ago that Rick Jackson was going to run for governor. I think I do. Yes, I do. I think it. Mm-hmm. I say, boy. Yes. All right. I think he knew a year ago, Brian Kemp, that Rick Jackson was going to run for governor. I think Brian Kemp supported Nikki Haley. I think Marty Kemp supported Nikki Haley. I think Marty Kemp doesn't have fond feelings for Burt Jones. We're not going to go into a lot of deep time for that, right? I think, and I know for a fact, this man wanted Nikki Haley to be president of the United States. Now, Rick Jackson, the Georgia billionaire and healthcare mogul, gave around $161,825 total to Nikki Haley and her supporting groups in the 2024 cycle. All right? This comes from Open Secrets and FEC data. The breakdown, $11,000 directly to Haley's campaign, $500. $140,000 from Jackson Investment Group to SFA Fund, $10,000 to Stand for America PAC. All right. Now, I asked more questions. Now, remember this in Georgia. Lost my cursor here. Nikki Haley pulled in 77,900 votes. 902 votes. That's considered, that's consistent number from official tallies, all right? She got about 13.2, she got about 13.23%. I think that's what it is, 13 2/3%, while Trump crushed with 400 and some thousand votes, or 84.49%. Is that right? I don't know. Total turnout, around 588,947 ballots. Yes, she dropped out March 6th after Super Tuesday, but her name stayed on the ballot. Lots of those votes were probably early ones locked in before the news hit. Still pretty solid protest turnout for a ghost candidate. Now, okay, here's another question I wanted to ask about Nikki Haley and Rick Jackson. Yes, that $40,000 chunk from Rick Jackson Investment Group went in before the Georgia primary. That last $40,000 went in just about. Haley suspended her campaign on March 6th, 2024, right after Super Tuesday. All right? The weeks before early 2024 means sometime February or late January. Jackson gave her another $40,000. At least $150,000 included that $40,000. Let's see. Trying to get all that together. So here's one more thing I want to say where Nikki Haley's concerned. Now, remember when Brian Kemp came to Georgia and he came to Atlanta and he got very irate with Brian Kemp and Marty Kemp, right? Why? Why did he do that? Because they have scrubbed it now. It's been scrubbed. I understand you can't find the video now, but it's still out there. Because, see, Georgia First Lady Marty Kemp told a local TV interviewer back in April 2024 that Trump had not earned her vote and she planned to write in her husband Brian's name instead. That line blew up later when Trump ripped into the Kemps at the Atlanta rally, calling it out by name, prompting Brian to snap back, "Leave my family out of it." The original clip vanished from the station's site. But remember, Marty Kemp said that Donald Trump didn't earn her vote. This is the same time Jackson's giving her thousands of dollars to try to get rid of Trump. Just saying. Now, this is the Taj Mahal. This is Jackson's corporate headquarters. And this is okay. This is okay. But here is the corporate headquarters for Jackson. Yeah. Corporate headquarters right here. I have been here. This is where they had the kickoff. It is unreal. Now, a couple things. He is in the healthcare, business staffing agency. And according to AI, the staffing agency operates in all 50 states. And according to AI, because sometimes their research can be a little off, according to AI, they were operating and staffing in all 50 states when COVID hit. Okay? The U.S. spent $4,866.5 billion on health care in 2023. Now, if you look, where does it go? 31% goes to hospital care. 31%. Okay? Now, I'm going to go through a couple things. And one, we did not find anything concerning Jackson Healthcare where they violated any laws. We didn't find anything where they violated any laws or were investigated for any reason whatsoever during COVID concerning the money they received or the charges, how they charge for their services. We did not. Okay? Want to be clear. But it doesn't change some facts. When COVID hit and Brian Kemp eventually and Geoff Duncan, I'm telling you, I think strongly this is Brian Kemp's candidate, and I will continue till I put that final dot, cross that T. I just feel right now this is his candidate. Now, I say this right here because I'm going to tell you. Jackson did not, quote, healthcare go out and have nurses quit their job. Nope, we did not find that. But what happened during COVID was, in COVID, in so many different things, you got reimbursed different if it was COVID. So no matter what you were involved in and you were trying to recover your money from the federal government or the state, wherever you are, if you marked down COVID, there was a different price, right? So that goes for healthcare services and staffing. So what happened when Brian Kemp and Geoff Duncan shoveled that $1 billion their way, all right? There was this spike in what's called traveling nurses, where nurses would leave their jobs where they were dedicated to certain hospitals and take jobs with staffing agencies. And I say that plural. Jackson Healthcare is not the only one, but in Georgia, they were the driver. But they would take jobs with staffing agencies because staffing agencies would do multiple different things, daily pay or certain things like that, or immediate benefits with them, some of them. And I don't know what Jackson Healthcare rules were, but I do know they were involved in traveling nurses. Traveling nurse agency staffing charges were above pre-19 levels, definitely played a big role in the healthcare crisis hospitals are dealing with today, though it's not the only villain. Now, when you hear about rural hospitals going broke, and this is not the only villain, but when you hear about rural hospitals going broke and the cost of care and how enormous it is, rural hospitals cannot compete. Back in 2019, traveling nurses were just a small slice. Meaning if a hospital was short on a certain staff for this shift, they would use a staffing service. Someone would come and you paid what's called a traveling nurse fee. Now, again, we don't find this directly on Jackson Healthcare by name, but what also would happen is these nurses would leave, and traveling nurses used to be just that. They traveled a certain distance from home. But in COVID, they kind of threw this out. They threw out the requirement of mileage or something, right? They basically threw it out. And you could consider yourself a traveling nurse almost, no matter how close you were to the facility you were servicing. And that happened in different places. All right? Traveling nurses were just a small slice. Hospitals spent about 4.7% of their total nurse labor on them at that time, with rates pretty steady and agency markups around 15%. Then COVID hit. Demands exploded. Shortages got brutal. And by 2022, that jumped nearly 40% of nurse expenses, with hourly billing to hospitals up 213%. From 2019, agencies pocketed fat margins like 62% instead of 15%, while hospitals bled cash with labor costs per patient soaring 19% by late 2021, hitting 57% during surges. So we're not saying that Jackson Healthcare just, poached the industry, but that money in COVID, right? Exactly why Anthony Fauci, they were taking the money. Now, lobbyists for medical staffing world, like agencies for traveling nurses and temp docs, are still hustling hard in 2026, even with COVID cash drying up. It's not about begging for pandemic bailout anymore. They're pushing for steady new revenue streams to plug the holes from that boom and bust. You see, these staffing agencies, they have lobbyists. They're in agencies that have lobbyists, and, there's a big drain now that the COVID money is gone. The big players, groups like American Staffing Association. Now, Jackson Healthcare is a member of American Staffing Association. Keep tabs on federal and state laws, tracking bills that could cap rates, regulate agencies, or open doors for more contracts. They fought off a tax on staffing last year, right? A tax on staffing last year, and beat back aggressive healthcare regulations in states, all to keep their members, including traveling outfits, flexible and profitable. No flashy new funding asks from them, just defense and tweaks for AI, automation, and workforce rules that can mean more gigs long term. So Jackson Healthcare, a member of AIA, America's Staffing Association, they are fighting hard against any regulations. They're fighting hard against any changes or anything that would change the models that they have in place now for their funding. So what I'm saying, right or wrong, I would have to get in the room and hear everything laid out. But right or wrong, these are things Rick Jackson could go on the campaign trail and talk about. But no. So I don't know. See, here we go. Jackson Healthcare, as an ASA member, benefits from the group's solid lobbying muscle as both federal and state levels. ASA got a dedicated advocacy setup. They track bills, rally members, push back on regs, and could cramp staffing firms, especially in healthcare. In 2025, policy agenda straight up oppose price controls on what agencies charge, like caps on travel nurse rates, saying they ignore real market spikes from demand or cost. They call out state pricing transparency, reporting as extra red tape, preferring case-by-case fixes under existing unfair trade laws instead of blanket rules on nurse staffing. They back basic screening and credentialing, but fight anything that hikes licensing, hurdles, or limits cross-state work, pushing for more foreign nurses, school funding, and barriers removed to ease shortages, right? Post-COVID, they're not chasing new bailouts. It's about protecting the turf, all right? Now, what I'm saying, the reason I'm bringing this up is these are all things that have to be dealt with on increase. Now, yes, we have the pharmaceutical industry. We have, this is not the only villain. It's not. Be clear. But post-COVID, they're not chasing new bailouts, protecting their turf, right? Let's see, I had it under here. Bottom line, ASA's team is protective, not flashy, stopping bad regulations before they stick. So members like Jackson can keep placing nurses without Uncle Sam micromanaging rates or licenses. Now, I'm just saying there's a lot here. All right. One more. I got a couple more. The American Staffing Association is pretty active in Georgia, mostly through its state affiliate, the Georgia Staffing Association, which is officially listed as an ASA chapter. GSA runs the show on the ground. They host an annual legislative day right at the Capitol, like one on February 10th, 2026, where members met legislators, got briefed on bills, workforce trends, and compliance stuff. It's all about pushing staffing priorities. Think blocking bad regulations, keeping things business friendly, and chatting up officials like labor commissioner or the governor's team. They even talk about teaming up with lobbyists to influence the state house directly. So they're down there under the gold dome, right? Protecting their dollar. They have access to the governor's team. They have access to the labor commissioner, right? GSA, the Georgia Staffing Association. ASA itself handles the national side, monitoring bills, fighting price caps, and overreach. But GSA amps up its local education on laws, networking events, and PAC for political muscle, right? Networking events and a PAC for political muscle. No, let's see. Just a couple more, I promise. No, Georgia hasn't passed any laws. Now listen to this. So since COVID and the $1 billion, right, money that went into Jackson Healthcare, no bid contract through Brian Kemp and Geoff Duncan, through governor's executive powers, right? So if executive powers went in place tomorrow, the next governor would be able to do the same thing, the next governor and the next governor. Georgia hasn't passed any laws since COVID that cap traveling nurse fees, right? Agency rates or any kind of labor costs for hospitals using staffing companies. Searching through state legislative records like on show no bills targeting rate cap or limits to temporary staffing prices. While over a dozen other states floated ideas like charging penalties for big hikes or capping what agency bills hospitals, Georgia stayed out of that. Georgia completely stayed out of it. Completely stayed out of it. All right? You have rural hospitals, and again, this is not the only villain. Not the only villain. But Georgia stayed completely out. Since 2019, all these costs that went like this. Let's see. Hospitals griped about sky-high travel nurse bills like over $4,000 a week early on. Yeah, $4,000 a week. But no state action followed. See, hospitals and different hospital organizations went to the state So, we're getting billed a traveling nurse fee of $4,000 a week, some of them. Again, this is not totally tied to Jackson Healthcare. Hospitals griped about sky-high travel nurse bills, like over $4,000 a week but no state action followed. It's all market-driven with rates dropping post-pandemic anyway. If something sneaky slipped in via budget or regs from the Department of Community Health, it didn't show up publicly. Bottom line, no caps, no limits. Georgia kept hands off. All right. Let's see. I want a couple more spots before we close up. Staffing agencies and skyrocketing traveling nurse prices definitely ramped up the burden on Georgia hospitals, especially during the peak. From 2021 to 2022, average weekly pay for a traveling nurse jumped from around $2,000 pre-pandemic, $2,000 pre-pandemic to $3,500 or more. Some contracts hit $4,000 plus per week. All right. Hospitals like Grady shelled out $222 an hour for temps. Wow. It strained budgets hard, and over-reliance on agencies became seemingly permanent by 2022. Operations suffered, bed closed, services delayed, patient safety risk up because constant staff vanished. Now, look, I can't blame a nurse. Cannot blame a nurse. But during this time when all this money was getting shoveled out, Jackson Healthcare being a part of it, nurses that had contracts with their local rural hospitals would leave. And then they'd go online, traveling nurse, boom, and they would get a job as a traveling nurse. And again, we can't say Jackson Healthcare participated in this. Some of them would go right back to the hospitals they just left once they became employees of the staffing agency, right? Rural spots got hit worse. Georgia lost 9 rural hospitals since 2010, with 22 more at closure risk of late 2025. Staffing shortages fueled that. National turnover hit over 100% in 5 years, forcing rural places to pay premiums for temps. Now, the reason I'm bringing all this up, if Rick Jackson wants to be governor, tell him to hit the campaign trail and say, look, on day one, I'm going to D.C. I'm going to call in RFK Jr. I'm going to call President Trump. We have to fix this. I mean, do you realize that in rural Georgia, people have to drive hour and an hour and a half for many appointments or to see physicians or get certain care because rural Georgia cannot afford, the hospital systems cannot afford to provide it any longer. But no, he's not on the campaign trail talking about this. All right? Now, let's see. It's part of a bigger rural hospital meltdown. Staffing wasn't the sole villain, but yeah, those agency bills devastated finances and access over the last 5 years. So it was not. Now, here's what I want to get to, because if the guy is out there, when the guy is out there talking about running for governor, healthcare costs are one of the biggest yearly climbers in county and city budgets across the U.S. You can't reduce the taxes over here when over here counties and Board of Education and cities are exploding with employees and growing rapidly and providing health care that's exploding in cost. It can't be done. It's not possible. Quit letting them tell you that. So until Rick Jackson knows that what he is charging and other staffing agencies and pharmaceutical, not the only Villing and others, I'm going to share with you tomorrow. I went to the emergency room for 4 hours. I got two fractures here. I was there for 4 hours. I think the bill, I'll share the bill with you tomorrow for 4 hours, right? So, climbs city, county budgets across the U.S., often outpacing everything else like pensions and public safety. For local governments, employee health benefits like premiums for police officers, teachers, firefighters keep spiking, up 6 to 10% annually lately, way faster than inflation. In Georgia, state-level plans like the SHBP just hiked employer contributions 7%, right, in 2025, and more tweaks coming in 2026. Counties and cities feel it hard since they foot similar bills for their own workers. Yep, staffing in hospitals drives a ton of that. Labor's the biggest chunk of hospital expenses, wages, benefits, and pricey agency. Nurses jumped nearly 40% during COVID. Still elevated now, all right? Hospitals pass those hikes through higher charges with insurers to bake them into the premiums, right? Now, let's see. So, bake them into the premiums. Now, the only reason I've discussed this, look at the hospital crisis we have in Georgia. That's the Jackson, that's Jackson Healthcare. That's their corporate office structure right there, Jackson Healthcare. See, Rick Jackson has participated in the problem in which his profit margin. And I'm not saying Jackson Healthcare hasn't done some good things. I mean, if you're bringing in $800 million, you can go and show where you're giving $3-4 million here and $2 and $3 million here. Yeah, you can. You can show where you're doing great things in your community. But I'm telling you right now, every time he comes up and he shows me this, and it says taxes, and he shows me this when I know this is how he really feels. His campaign is a fraud and a fake. His campaign's a fraud and a fake. So I don't know what you do as a candidate. I really don't. I mean, as a voter, I don't know who you vote for. Now, Chris Carr, and I didn't imply that, he's trying to come between them and say, hey, you know why these two guys are fighting? Are you tired of rich guys spending money? Take a look at me. And I got to get to this tomorrow. Republicans are mad Brian Kemp is standing by his Georgia Senate endorsement. I got to get to that. Now, on the Democrat side, Geoff Duncan, he's trying to win over black voters. So there was a recent poll, all right? A recent poll came out, and a Democrat candidate for Secretary of State had an internal poll done, and the polling shows that Jason Estevez is moving up. And right now on the Democrat side, it showed Keisha Lance Bottoms with 32%, Estevez with 14%, Lieutenant Governor Duncan 12%, DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurman with 11%, and 30% are still unsure on the Democrat side. Still unsure on the Democrat side. So let me say this. I want this to sink in. Ready? Rick Jack, now wait a minute. Wait just a minute. No yelling. No yelling. I want you to think about this. These are the Republican candidates. Rick Jackson, 71 years old. 71, okay? Burt Jones is 46 years old. Burt Jones is 46. Brad Raffensperger is 70 years old. Brad Raffensperger is 70 years old. Chris Carr is 54. Now, over on the Democrat side, Keisha Lance Bottoms is 56. Keisha Lance Bottoms is 56. Jason Estevez is 42. He's 42 years old. Michael Thurman, the Democrat over there, is 73. He's 73. And Geoff Duncan is 50 years old. Think about that. We'll talk about that a little more in a different program. Okay. I have to close up, so let's go here. We've got the 14th District. There's a lot being made out of this. I will talk about it tomorrow. No rush to rally behind Fuller in MTG's old seat. The AJC is trying to do voter suppression here, but is it accurate? Because right here, waiting to rally as Republican Clay Fuller heads into next week, 14th Congressional District runoff, there's two people standing on the sideline, all right? And that is Clay Fuller is the endorsed Republican up against Sean, what's Sean's name? What's Sean's name? I'll get it in a minute. Green, right? Sean Harris. I'm sorry, Sean Harris. All right. None of the opponents have actually rallied around him, so he's still trying to get the base together. Harris told the Political Georgia podcast, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the biggest Republican in our district, and she's a voter, has not come up to endorse him. So Sean Harris is doing a good job in this campaign right now in the 14th District, the Democrat, because we have not heard a word as of today from Colton Moore. Not heard a word from Colton Moore. Nothing. No support for Clay Fuller. Colton Moore's not online saying, get out and vote, get out and vote. Not a word from Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's not pushing people to get out and vote, right? So tomorrow, let me see, I want to talk about this right here. The district attorneys that will be nonpartisan in Atlanta now. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. The district attorneys that will be nonpartisan in Atlanta. So, look, I'm going to go. I got to get this uploaded. I said this at the beginning. I'll close with this, all right? I'm actually don't want to hear him. He had to go and get people that supported Trump because he did not. He had to go and get people to say, I supported Trump and I trust him, because Rick Jackson did not. The campaign is false in my eyes, fake, phony. It's not real. Rick Jackson has not convinced me why he wants to run for governor. Because if Rick Jackson was out there and he was running for governor to get these crazy costs under control, health care, support our rural hospitals, different things like that, things he could actually do instead of bullet points someone wrote for him, I would look at it a little different. If Rick Jackson came out and said, I didn't vote for Donald Trump, I didn't vote for him in the primary, I voted for Nikki Haley. I'm one of the 70,000 that voted for Nikki Haley in the primary against Donald Trump. I didn't vote for Donald Trump in 2016. I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I voted for Jeb Bush in the primary or someone else in 2016. If he comes out and he says, I think our elections are fine, whatever, okay? But just playing it safe and spending millions and millions of dollars will not stop us from looking through and seeing the cheap veil that is a campaign. Not going to do it. So he's not a Trump supporter. He is not. Okay. I don't think he likes Donald Trump. I don't think he voted for Donald Trump. I can't say it enough. I'm going to go and I'm going to, let's see, how are we going to do this? We'll do it like this right here. Don't forget our Substack, Vora at BKP Politics. Don't forget, you can always text me and email me. And we do not endorse candidates, but if you would like a campaign card about your candidate on our podcast, get in touch with our marketing company. Get in touch with me. I'll put you over there to the marketing, and you can get your card on the broadcast. Should I say this? We got to talk about Secretary of State. But we'll do it soon. Until we meet again.
What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.